validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Uh, so it's Thursday, man. Time is flying. I know that some of y'all are looking forward to school getting ready to start in the next few weeks. August is in 2 days. So if you haven't gotten your money together for the upcoming school season, you need to start getting your money together. Now, here on This and That, and I know I was actually talking to Mr. Pips today about the stream key for TikTok, and I got some insight, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do, so I didn't put it in there today. But I am going to try to see what I can do about doing some live streaming from TikTok while I'm streaming on YouTube. But from what I see, I'm probably going to have to get a better performing computer, a bigger computer with a higher processor power, so that I can have two streaming systems on the same computer at the same time in order to have that capability. And then it would have to be a situation where I might have a second computer with a script on it so that I can see what I need to see while I'm looking at the comment section from computer number one. So it's going to be a wild scenario. But they did say that I could potentially reach out to some individuals and then they can give me the information that I need so that I can go ahead and get started with the stream key thing. So that's new. That information that I did not get before. The other information they gave us wasn't I did everything I was supposed to do, never got contacted back. So now we're going to be trying this other group to try to see if we can get a stream key from these guys, and that will help us because once we get our TikTok channel whitelisted, where we can get the stream key and stuff, then we can take the stream key information, add it into StreamYard, and then everybody can have their comments on YouTube, StreamYard, and Twitch, and then we can all see each other. So I'm looking forward to that. I promised y'all this like almost a year ago, and with the merger and everything that happened, like I just got distracted and delayed with it, and I just stopped doing research on it. So now that I've got some new information and new insight, now I'm interested in trying to see if I can fulfill my promise from back in the day. And when I do, then you'll start seeing probably a plethora of comments from TikTok, more so than what we get from YouTube. So I gotta curate that as well. But as things progress, I'll keep you guys updated. Now, here on this and that, we actually started close to on time today. I think we're like 5 minutes late. Uh, but while we go live 7 nights a week, we do not let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. And that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe. Um, Match those reaction buttons while you're here. And then also tag those notification buttons so that you know when we go live, so that if in the event that uh, there's some updates or some insight or some information that I want you guys to have, that you guys can grab it directly off of the live stream. Oh, I forgot to do this. This is one of the reasons why the algorithm is not our friend today. Boom, got to put this in there. That's the starter. Next, so we've got the links in there for those individuals that are going to be appropriate when they come onto the show. You can comment in the comment sections, but I ask you guys to do me a justice and keep your comments appropriate. And then, if in the event that you do come onto the live show live, that you keep your comments appropriate and no visual inappropriate content. Oh, now I think about it, I got to go and edit out from the previous Sunday, so I'll be trying to do that today as well. Either way, make sure that not only do you hit the notification buttons, but you also go and check out the membership. We got a lot of stuff going on in the membership. We've got a lot of things that are being released content wise in the membership that you guys would effectively love. Um, I think at some point I'm going to be trying to create some members only videos to put into the membership, but that's going to be something that I'm going to be doing like down the line because there's a lot of wheels turning right now and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And like one man band right now, we're trying to make this work. So as we stay true to our nature with making sure that we give you guys regular reoccurring information, we have different topics every night of the week. Sundays, questions and comments from the fans. You have questions about the stuff that's going on with you. And I know that people love that to dive into the comment section and start trying to have like personal conversations with me, try to pick my personal life apart. But you got to understand, I'm here to help you guys make and change decisions in your lives to improve your capabilities to have a better standard of living than what you had before you came to the show. So, with that being said, I think it makes more sense instead of asking me questions about me that you ask me how to change the way you do how you do. Uh, he said Todd Roderick was a one man and he sold out shows. Oh, so he was a one man show and he was sold out all the time. Look, I'm trying to get to selling out, man. I have not gotten to the sold out arena yet. We've got more guests than we've got employees, but it's still, it's still a thing. Um, One of the hardest parts about this particular type of podcast is that it's an educational podcast and nobody wants to learn anything. So while there is a small population of individuals that would love this, enough for me to potentially reach a million active participants on the channel. The fact is that until they come across the channel where the algorithm shows me to their For You page, they don't know that we're here. So that's one of the things that happens. So even though we have, 100 something thousand people coming through here on a regular basis, not all of them are from America. Special shout out to Bangladesh. And then not all of them are actually interested in learning something. Some like the topic, they like the comment, they hang out a little bit, but it's more of a toss up kind of situation. And that's one of the things that we have to try to improve on the show is getting more people that are actually wanting to improve their lives into the same place at the same time. But it's a work in progress. As long as I stick with it over the next few years, we should see the steamroll of information that we were expecting to see when we decided to start podcasting. But when we decided to start podcasting 3 years ago, we just thought that it would be a good idea, me and Mr. Pibbs, to just give a little bit of advice on controversial topics because controversial topics are easy to draw and bait. Then when Mr. Pibbs left, I said, let's make this actually something that's more of a self-improvement thing. So the self-improvement thing has only been like since I want to say August or September of 2024, which means that we've only been August of 2026, 2 years of 2 out of 3 years of actually giving you guys nothing but information that actually improves your wallet. So that's one of the reasons why I am not disappointed at the progress of the platform because we completely revamped it 12 months. Well, I completely revamped it 12 months in and have been consistent about it over the last couple of years and has been continuously moving up in the show so that things would start making more sense and then people would start benefiting from when they get here. Now, we have after Sunday, we have Mondays where we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Then we have on Tuesdays different ways to make, save, and invest money. Wednesdays, we have different countries around the world to invest. Today being Thursday, we have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We talk about self improvement, personal development, socialization, negotiations, relationship topics, building your brand, and then raises, promotions, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages. Uh, Hi, you seem nice. Hello. I appreciate that. Clearly, they're not listening to me. And then we talk to you guys about how to build your 20 or 30 year plan. And the reason why we do that is because we really want you guys to know why it's important to prepare for your future and then what ways you can do to go about doing it to get yourself prepared for your futures. So we're going to have a lot more, Stephen. We're going to have a lot more people like that popping into the comment section when we actually finally get the stream key from TikTok. Because our followership at TikTok is not nearly as high as our followership over here on YouTube, but everybody got something to say. Everybody, at least a hi or a get out of our country. That's typically what we got, depending on the topic of the day. So we're going to be trying to figure that stuff out as we continue to move forward. Now, today we are supposed to be talking about actually business related information because there's some brutal truth about what happens when you're running out of cash and your business is starved. I was actually just talking to a buddy of mine about a business that he's got going on that needs more capital than he has accessible to him. And that partly piggybacks off of the bridge loan discussion that we had because in real estate, there's bridge loans. In other industries, you have capital loans, equity loans, or not equity loans, capital loans, which is a capital loan is when your business is generating revenue, you can borrow against your profits. And that's an opportunity that only exists if you have a profitable business. Now, typically, they usually tap into about 20% of your profits, and that's profits, not sales. So you still have to look at you're going to have your sales, you're going to have your overhead, and that's going to be your expenses. So you look at your profits and losses sheet. Out of your profits, they typically tap into like 20% of your profits and or less, and they loan you money based on that. So if you have, regardless of how much money your sales are, if you have $100,000 a year in profits, they typically would try to offer you maybe 20,000. Well, if you had $100,000 a year in profits, they offer you like 20,000, maybe $40,000 worth of loan money, and then they would issue you that with interest over the course of 2 years, 18 months, 24 months, and you would pay them back out of sales, right? So when businesses struggle and they actually have a profit margin, they can borrow against a stone and generate the revenue to expand, get better equipment. If they're bottlenecking because their performance is limited to the resources that they have access to and they're trying to expand, that's what they would do. Drop shippers, they have the ability to show that they make sales, but they would be making more sales if they had more accessibility to product. People will invest in that because they see the profit margin on the items and say, okay, well, I can turn a profit per unit if we gave you five, 10, $20,000 and you mass bought the product, and then the product continues to sell out the way it's selling out now, then we get our cut, you get more money, and the system pays for itself, right? But in some situations where your business isn't generating enough money to borrow against the business, and you don't have enough wiggle room to expand in order to bring in more clientele or bring in more profits, you start finding yourself in a situation where your business is starved for capital, and sustaining the business becomes almost a self-funded situation. And typically, when you end up in those situations, people who are trying to live off of whatever it is they're trying to do, they would prefer to walk away from the stress of that particular type of situation and just go work for somebody else who's already got a fully functional operation where all they have to do is just show up and get paid for their presence. It is what it is. Less responsibility, guaranteed pay. It for some people that automation is seemingly feasible for them. For me, I got up an hour before the podcast. I went to bed at sunrise and I got up an hour before the podcast. If I had to work for somebody else, I would not have that freedom. I thought I was going to wake up at like lunch. I went back to bed after lunch. I literally got up, got lunch, and went back to bed, and then I woke up an hour before the podcast. So, having the ability to say, you know what, fuck it, I don't want to get up. That's the freedom that you have when you work for yourself. As long as whatever it is that I plan on doing for the day, for the week, for the month is getting done at my leisure, I can make sure that the performance gives me results, which would aid me in my ability to see successful profits. Now, this is a different type of business than what other people are doing, but it is still a situation where even if you automated a website that was managing somebody else's websites, or if you had a website that was um, collecting contacts from people where you had to call them back at their availability, you still decide when you're not doing mandatory appointments, you still decide when you're going to call them. When you have an appointment calendar where from this time to this time, you're going to be talking to somebody because you scheduled appointments, you are guaranteeing yourself that your calendar will be booked up from this time to this time. And now you have the responsibility of showing up and being present because you have agreed through the availability of your calendar to show up when they are available to talk to you. So that's a little bit more stressful. But when you automate a system where the system itself, like I was telling Steven, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, about creating notes for every subject, detailed notes for every subject, the things that students would need to know to be successful in certain fields, and create those notes, put them up for sale. And then if you have like certain course material, you know, like whatever the course code is for the college class, and you just put that up on a website and sell it with downloadable links where they pay to download the links, bro, you can automate self-created content where you create it one time, put it up there, and forget about it. That's it. If you do a test buy and make sure that the links work, that's it. And then the only thing you're doing after that is you're checking the site to make sure that the site is still running, make sure the domain is still paid for, make sure that the links are still functional, and you just leave it alone. Leave it alone. If you wanted to go the extra mile on that and promote your site, run some ads, pop up on my show, run some ads, and you'll find yourself with people that are looking for notes and they'll buy notes. More people are looking for tutors than are looking for notes. But the principle of the fact is is that the content that you used to get your B or your C in your class could be used to get somebody else in A in their class. And the fact is that your past experience could be sold to everybody else for the foreseeable future, $5 or $10 per download for something that took you 3 months to create, and because you were taking notes along the way, and you sell that to somebody else, and you'll find that people will be like, "Holy crap!" and they'll pay that. And with the what 60% of college students, or 60% of the population college students, either getting in or just getting out, right? That's a lot of people that's looking for notes. you know. So if you we off of 100 something million Americans, if 100 million Americans are looking for notes, if 50 million Americans are looking for notes, if a million Americans are looking for notes at $5 a person, that's a wrap, bro. That's a wrap, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Stuff like that. So if you automate yourself in a situation where you're making money, make money for yourself, then when people come and talk to you about it, it's like, oh yeah, I got a whole website that's got all the notes that you need on it. And then you can give them a QR code and have them scan the QR code, and then they go to the site and they look at all the stuff. So you could be advertising your business on the college campus legitimately, because you're not selling tests that were hacked or something like that. You're selling the notes for each class that gives all the detailed information that somebody would need for that course. And then they buy it from you, they use it, and they're good, right? And that's like a whole business that you could promote for the next 3 or 4 years that you're in college, because you're in a university, at least a half million students. If everybody, not even everybody, if 100,000 students bought one $5 PDF file from you, that's $500,000. That's how serious the situation is. And the overhead of this particular type of operation would be potentially a squeeze page, domain link, um, maybe if you were going to use either Stripe or PayPal or something like that to collect funds, and then so your overhead would be significantly low, and then you would be putting preferably every science class up there, and then every math class up there, because those are the ones that everybody struggles with, up there for sale, how to do it, when to do it, and what to do with it. And I can guarantee you that, like I said, 100,000 students out of your campus buy notes from you as a $500,000. If you could get 100,000 students to buy notes from you over the course of the 3 years you're in college, that's a $500,000 that you would have made by going to school, right? Just selling notes to other kids. Doesn't matter what your grades are. What matters is, you know, you're selling them solutions, right? And that's really where businesses come from. You're either selling the convenience to somebody else, or you're selling solutions to somebody else, where you are working on their pain points and you're taking over their pain points and filling in the blanks, right? So that's the logic behind even something so simple. But when you're automating a business where you get up whenever you feel like it, you do whatever you want to do, you're still making your money, you know, I told you a $500,000 off of 100,000 students, but you could be making $50,000 a year off of 10,000 students. and that could be a career, right? Just creating notes for students. Special shout out to OG Kicks. So when we start talking about having a start business, remember when we talked about building the brokerage account, utilizing the profits from the brokerage account to invest in other investment opportunities. When you need extra capital to subsidize the overhead of a struggling business or a struggling financial opportunity, and you have a brokerage account that's paying capital to cover the spread, instead of your daily paycheck covering the spread, the brokerage account can cover the spread so that the business can make the money over time, where now you have two sources of income that is not your day-to-day paycheck. That is ultimately what we would be talking about when we're putting all this stuff together for you. Now, If we put yourself in a situation where, you think you're running out of cash, and that is just a bad month that you can recover from, temporary dip in sales, a problem that you can solve by working a little bit harder or closing one more deal at the beginning of the next month. But the reality is, it's often the start of a business death spiral that can kill your company faster than you ever thought possible. So, we're going to show you guys what really happens when the money stops and why your profit and losses statement can be a dangerous illusion when you can't pay those bills. Now, this isn't about bookkeeping. This is about survival with your business and you in this economy. So, let's get one of the most dangerous misconceptions in business out of the way right now. Profit is not cash. I want to read that again. Profit is not cash. You can be wildly profitable on paper and still be completely and utterly broke. In fact, many sources claim that a staggering number of small businesses that fail, some studies say as high as 82% of them, do so because of poor cash flow management. They didn't fail because they weren't profitable. They failed because they ran out of money. So imagine this. You run a small manufacturing company. This quarter, you landed a huge order from a major retailer. Your accountant prepares the income statements, and it's a beautiful looking statement. You sold $500,000 worth of product. Your cost of goods was $250,000. And after all the other expenses, you're looking at a healthy six-figure profit. You feel like a genius. You're thinking about expansion, maybe a new car, but there's a problem that you're not seeing there. To fulfill that massive order, you had to spend $150,000 in raw materials, and you had to pay your supplier for those materials within 30 days. You also had to run your factory overtime, which means payroll is going to be higher by 50% this month. That payroll is going to be due this Friday, the end of July. Meanwhile, that huge, beautiful order on your shipping situation is supposed to go out right now. Your customers' payment terms are net 90. That means that they have 3 full months to pay you the $500,000 that you're supposed to get. So you've already, quote unquote, earned it. You just haven't gotten it. So while your profits and losses statement says that you're rich, your bank account is screaming. You have more money going out to suppliers, employees, utilities than you have coming in. You're profitable per se, and you're also about to miss payroll at the same time. This is going to be the profit versus cash trap, and it's the first step into quicksand. This state is called a liquidity crisis. And I know that when I talked to you guys before about starting up your own businesses online, creating stuff that you can utilize for yourselves, you would create cash flow first. And then after you create enough cash flow to double the quantity of labor, then you would turn around and pay someone else to take over some of the workload for you because there is enough profit in there for more than one person. Um, by giving you that type of advice, instead of saying, okay, let's put another person here because you're making money. I said, make enough money to cover 2 people and then pay for a second person. So you still have a salary, but now you have enough money to pay a second person's salary. And now the two of you can expand because if you're doing the work of probably 5 people and you put a second person in there, the two of you should be able to do the work of probably 10 people, which means you should be able to bring in double the revenue, which means the extra revenue coming in would have given you the capabilities of doubling your workload or doubling your not workload but workforce from 2 people to 4 people, so that the 4 people could bring in enough revenue to cover the cost of 4 people plus room for 2 more people. Michael said that was bad management. Yeah, that was bad management to have the net 90 situation set up where they owe you and they got the product but they haven't paid you yet. Yeah, that's a terrible situation to be in. That's a very shitty situation to be in, but a lot of businesses fall into that situation. Liquidity just looks like a measurement of how quickly you can get your hands on cash and pay your immediate bills. That's what liquidity is. When your money is all tied up in unpaid invoices from customers, known as accounts receivables, or sitting in a warehouse as unsold inventory, you have a low liquidity because you don't get money until after you've sold something or gotten paid for something that was already sold. You own valuable things, but you can't spend those things. And that's why when we were talking about before, when we say about building wealth, certain assets that are not necessarily assets like art and other such things, they're not financially beneficial to you starting out because they are only worth what somebody is willing to pay for them, and you can only collect when you sell it. If you need money now in desperation, you will sell a Mona Lisa far cheaper than what it's worth because of desperation. But if you don't need money now, you can sell it for more than what you paid for it and potentially turn a profit, including holding costs, if you were working on this from a logical mindset, which is why I tell you guys that you want to start by building the type of portfolio that creates revolving capital, then expand into other areas where you're making capital from multiple different locations, and then you expand to a scenario where the extra capital is allowing you to buy expensive assets like vases and paintings and sports cars and whatever else that you're going to buy because those assets well, sports car is not an asset, that's a liability, but other stuff that would hold monetary value on your behalf, so that you don't have to have the cash sitting in a bank somewhere, right? Because technically when you have a bunch of expensive stuff, the value of those expensive items keeps your money out of the eyes of the IRS, because the IRS doesn't look at your stuff. The IRS looks at how much money you generate, right? When MC Hammer was making $53 million a year, they took his golden toilet, but the golden toilet itself was an asset. Had it been a gold plated porcelain toilet, they wouldn't took it. I just can't see myself taking shit on gold like that. That's either way. Let's imagine your business. You want to think of your business as supposed to be a high performance car, right? Your profits and losses statements is going to be the speedometer. It might say that you're going 150 miles per hour, but cash flow, that's going to be the fuel gauge. And when the gauge is on empty, it doesn't matter how fast your speedometer says that you were going. The engine is going to cut out and you're going to grind to a very sudden and very painful halt. Now, I know this feels a little bit intimidating. Uh, Most people has experienced this at one point or another in their life, and whether they were creating a small agency or starting up a small business, and they could have found themselves in a position where they were good, like really good, you know, started with a few small clients, had a few customers, a little bit of employee base, and then after about a year or so of grinding, you landed that big one. You became a household name with your brand. The contracts were worth more than all of the other projects that you could ever imagine, and you feel like you made it, right? First thing you do, you celebrate. Second thing you do, hire more people. You bring on multiple employees in different fields. You lease bigger offices. You upgrade your computers. You build the agency that you always dreamed of. And on paper, your revenue is tripled overnight. Um, you were, by every accounting matrix, a massive success story. The work started, and the first month becomes a blur of creative energy. You poured everything into it. At the end of the month, you sent out your first invoice, and it might have been a huge one, like $75,000. Payment terms are a net 60, standard for a corporation of the size of business that you're operating on. Now, no problem. You got some cash in the bank. You can float it. But then one of your smaller, unusual, reliable clients is late on a payment. Then another has a problem with an accounting system. Suddenly, your cash reserves started to look a little thin. Think about those businesses that were out there on the White House lawn. And I say the White House lawn, but that's because the majority of their customer base was feds. And when the um, government shut down for 2.5 months, those businesses that are buying product to sell to a customer base that's no longer there uh, might have a net 60 or net 90 situation where they can pay later. Then the government shutdown happens. They're no longer generating a revenue. Now they've got to pay these people back, and they don't have the capabilities to pay those people back. Payroll starts coming up, rents due, software subscriptions are on auto debit, which means that they're going to start charging to the credit card, whether you like it or not. You start checking a bank account, and obviously, 5 times a day, then 10 times a day, then 20 times a day, you start recognizing that there isn't enough money coming in to cover all of the expenses that you're about to owe. He said it didn't set aside a capital reserve to cover this. Um, no, so here's the thing. Yeah, now the employees are leaving. Yeah, well, if the well, okay, so now you got two things. So first and foremost, if the guy's got a reserve because you got a $75,000 contract coming in, your reserve is the revolving capital of customers that are paying their net 30 and net 60s from before, right? And your smaller companies were paying, but all you need is one or two companies that are not paying, and now you start finding yourself with a problem because you're entitled to certain capital. When you say, well, they're not putting away a reserve, most companies don't have a holdings just sitting there not doing anything. A lot of them go all in on mass production, and then they might have a little bit aside for payroll to cover the mass production, and then profits from sales continues the performance. As we sell stuff, we pay our workers to make more stuff. So in the event that, say, if you're advancing a product to somebody and they're going to pay you later, and then you don't get paid later, that's a hiccup in the system that wasn't projected for. Especially if 100% of your clients are paying on time, you are expecting this money before it gets there, and then you find yourself in a position where one or two of them don't pay on time, or some of them default, and you're missing money. Now you're short. It's just like if you worked a full-time job at McDonald's and something happens where McDonald's doesn't deposit your check into your bank account this week. You work for the money. You've been getting that paycheck for the last 15 years, but this week they didn't pay you. You call your boss calls payroll, they'll get back to you. You still got to show up for work every day, and you still don't have enough money to pay your bills. This is not a situation of simply not putting enough aside. This is a situation of not knowing or not estimating the unforeseen circumstance that a seemingly guaranteed reoccurring payment is not going to actually come in. It's like people who are on Social Security disability. You've been getting paid from the government for the last 20 years that you've been retired. And if this month something happens where you don't get paid, you don't have any money. Your bills are still due. You've been counting on this money for so long that you expect it to show up, and you don't have any money left over in case it doesn't show up. That's what we're talking about right now. And not all the time do employees start leaving simply because they didn't get one paycheck. Usually, if payroll has a hiccup, they are willing to go one, sometimes three missed paychecks if they're going to get all of their money by the fourth missed paycheck. Government agents went 2 months, which is four missed paychecks. So they don't start walking out on the job the first day they don't get paid. They actually linger out of loyalty unless it's a new business and they're not getting paid, and they've never been paid, but they've been doing all of this work. Then they might start walking out. But if they've been getting paid and then they stop getting paid because there's a hiccup in the system, the boss reassures them that they'll get paid and maybe even proposition them to keep them motivated to stay until the money balances out. And then the employees actually stay out of loyalty. So they don't just walk out simply because one paycheck was late. He says, now the problem is compounding, have to file Chapter 11. No, you don't have to file Chapter 11 simply because there's not enough. This is a compounding problem where Chapter 11 happens after like 6 months of not making any money, a year of not making money, because typically everything starts defaulting after 90 days of non-payment, which is 3 months. Collection agencies start coming to look for their money. Chapter 11 might happen on month 4, 5, or 6. This is the hypothetical scenario that we just talked about, was that you have had a steady stream of income. You hit one big client, you expanded everything, and 30 days into the big client, you are short money. 30 days in. So this will be the first time that you're missing a payment. So you're not looking at Chapter 11 bankruptcy because you miss one payment. They don't foreclose on your house if you miss one payment. They don't repossess your car if you miss one payment. Okay. So Chapter 11 happens when, if you foreshadow it to say that permanently he's not making enough money to pay for his employees, because this is a net 90 account, which means that his money will come 90 days after today. That's the part that you missed. His money is coming to cover the spread. He's just got to wait 3 months, which means that he's going to be behind on payments for 3 months, right? That's the part that you're missing. So it's not necessarily a Chapter 11 situation. It's either I need to get paid early, or I need to collect on more stuff, or I need to do less advancing resources and start getting advanced money, pre-order stuff like GTA 6 did, like Tesla did, so that people are paying in advance to get it, so that I can recoup the losses of the advancements of product, all of the stuff that has to happen to change that, to prevent from getting to the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. If he doesn't do anything to rectify the problem, he would lead to Chapter 11. But I appreciate your foreshadowing. But that feeling of not having enough money, that cold dread that starts in your stomach festering up to the throat, it's you lying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, staring at the ceiling, running the numbers over and over and over in your head. You're thinking like payroll's $40,000, rent's $10,000. Uh, you have $35,000 in the bank. The small client might pay tomorrow, and that's $15,000. But what if they don't? Who do you pay first? Who can you pay off? Can you use your personal credit cards to cover the software bills? Can you dip into your own savings to make sure that the team gets paid? This is what big businesses think about. This is what business owners think about when they hit those little dips in the company. They don't just fall into Chapter 11. Well, what if I can subsidize this myself? Right? Then you start making bargains with the universe. Just let this one check come in, and I swear I'll never be in this position again. But the check doesn't come. The net 60 invoice from the big client was still 30 days away. The smaller clients were dodging calls. Now you're in a situation where you're a week away from payroll with only half the cash that you need to pay payroll. You're going to feel like a complete fraud in this situation. And as the founder, projecting this image of success, you're doing amazing work for a dream client, yet behind the scenes, you're terrified that you're about to implode. You're not going to be able to sleep at night. You can't focus. Every phone call made is going to make your heart jump, hoping it was a client ready to pay, fearing that it was a vendor demanding money that you didn't have. And this isn't just a bad month. This is the beginning of the spiral. Uh, Being your first month that you experience this, it's a brutal lesson that the story your profit statement tells you and the reality of your bank account can be two completely different things. The death spiral that Michael was talking about into chapter 11 or chapter 13 bankruptcy isn't a single event. It's a series of cascading failures, a domino effect where each bad decision makes the next one almost unevadable. Because you can find yourself in this particular situation taking out a massive loan to cover the spread with high interest rates, where yes, you cover this month's bad expenses, but we're 30 days into a net 60. And when the net 60 pays, everybody's covered except you. So now your house is struggling. It's a predictable pattern. And we're going to break it down into 5 stages. See if any of these sound familiar to you. Stage one, the bad month illusion. This is going to be where it all begins. It's the moment that you choose delusion over data. A big payment is a little late. That's going to be something that's going to happen. An unexpected expense pops up. Your cash balance dips lower than you're comfortable with. But instead of seeing it as a symptom of a real problem, you dismiss all of this stuff. It's just a one off. Make it up next month. This is going to be the most dangerous stage because it feels benign. You're still optimistic. To patch the hole, like I said before, you might use personal funds, telling yourself that it's a temporary loan to the business. You pay a supplier a week late for the first time. Sure, you'll be back on track soon. You're ignoring the blinking red light on the dashboard because the radio is still playing. And by treating the symptoms, not the disease, you've taken your first steps into that spiral. Stage two, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I'm just going to tell you, back in stage one, when you start subsidizing your business's expenses with personal income, it is the smartest move to contract it out as a loan to the company. And if you're smart about it, you want to contract it out as a loan to the company with interest. Why? Because no matter how long it takes for you to pay yourself back, when the business starts making profits, significant profits, that is going to be the moment when you are capable of getting back everything you're owed and some. If you factored in your salary into this loan, where like Donald Trump, when he did his first campaign trail in 2017, I think he borrowed $50 million from himself and paid himself back 500% interest, which is 5 times more than that. It's $250 million on a campaign trail. Now, that is a one-time calculation. When you think about compounding, especially if you said like compounding daily or compounding monthly, and from 2017 to 2026, if his campaign trail is still paying him back with interest, that $250 million might actually be a $500,000 or more that he's paying himself back off of borrowing money from himself. Likewise, it could be the same thing. You don't have to be greedy and say, oh, I'm entitled to a paycheck too. I'm the founder. I loaned the company $100,000. The company is going to pay me back that $100,000 with interest. If I say 500% interest compounding monthly, or 500% interest compounding daily, you can loan shark the fuck out of the situation. The fact is that you have a balance owed, interest calculated, and if the contract is designed where the monthly payments are required, but no set payment date is established while you're running the country, or not the country, the company, you're capable of paying yourself back. And then you can even set payment dates. This is another wild one. You can even set payment dates and have interest applied to late payments and have the contract set up where, let's say they're supposed to pay you out of your $100,000, they're supposed to pay you $10,000 on the 15th of every month. And if they don't pay, there's a 5% increase on the missed payment, where now they're it's like $10,500 or something like that. Fantastic. You don't collect the money for however many months that the company's down. You got the 100 grand, you covered the spread, everything's going good. Several months down the line, the company owes you like 55 grand. And likely majority of that is just interest on the 100 grand. Ultimately, you've established a way to make money out of the business as a reimbursement on your loan, not a shareholder profit, which is different. And that prevents you from having, because it's not taxable income. Well, no, I stand corrected. That is taxable income, but it's a reimbursement on a loan, not a shareholder investment situation. So when it comes down to debt collection, you get paid first, because the way it works is that the founder or executive of the company has priority if the company liquidates, because you put money into the company the way the company should be structured, and the capital loans that are put in there should be structured in a way where you get reimbursed first, and then whatever else happens goes to everybody else. You can find yourself in a scenario where you break even, or like you walk away with a large quantity of the cash if the business did go under, if you did have a Chapter 11. Yeah, everybody's going to get theirs, but you're going to get yours first. Now, stage two, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Let's talk about that real quick. The bad month that you experienced, it wasn't a one-off. Now you're facing real undeniable cash shortfalls. Optimism gives way to panic calculations. You can't pay everyone, so you have to choose. You create a mental hierarchy of who gets paid first. The vendors who yell the loudest, the crucial supplier that you need for the next job, the landlord that you need for the property. But the government tax payment, maybe you can push that back. That quiet vendor who has been with you for years, you can ignore their emails a little longer. You start incurring late fees, which only digs a deeper hole, which is just like I told you, interest pays for late fees. You're no longer using debt for growth, you're using the debt to breathe. And every dollar that you borrow in this fashion is going to be an anchor, making it that much harder to climb back out. He says most RV parks are based on a 28-day cycle, making 13 months in a year. Yeah, true, because there is 13 months in a year. It's just that the religious expectations of a lot of individuals, including the 13 animals of the zodiac, and they don't consider the cat as one of the animals of the zodiac, and they do 12 instead of 13. The fact that, and it's all superstitious based, but the fact is that there is truly uh, 13 months in a year. Back in the day, when we had 4 clear seasons, they didn't calculate 13 full or 12 or 13 full months, because they started the calendar from the beginning of spring and they ended the calendar after fall, right before winter started, because they had 3 months of snow. So they really only had like 9 month calendars that they really actually talked about. But in modern times, if we're out there in a blizzard because we got to make that money. So there's no weather conditions that'll stop us from doing what we do. So there are in fact 13 months in a year. But I don't know how that applies to what we're talking about right now, because when you're doing payment options, payment options are 30-day payment options because most months out of the year have at least 30 days in it. There's only 1 month out of the year that has less than 30 days in it, but the rest of the months have 30 or 31 days in it. So they do a net 30 and say that 30 days from now, which is not necessarily the exact same day last month, but close to the same day last month, that you owe me money this month. So if they do a net 30, if you give me money on the 27th of July, you owe me money by the 26th of August. If it's a net 60, you owe me by the 27th of September. If it's a net 90, you might owe me on the 26th of November. And it just keeps going like that, right? And people don't pay attention to how that applies when it comes down to you owing, as well as you receiving if you're establishing these lines of credit. Because lines of credit, from the perspective of the receiver of the line of credit, is that I get fronted stuff and then I pay the stuff later. From the distributor of the line of credit, I'm going to front them stuff and then they're going to pay me back eventually, right? And that's the part that you got to think about. So whether or not an RV park has a 28-day cycle or not doesn't change the fact that if you're supposed to pay monthly and monthly doesn't come, you have to reassess your situation. With an RV park, you don't have as much maintenance because everybody brings their own equipment. You might have like the pipes and everything for the running water and the poles and everything for the running electricity and paving of the roads, which doesn't necessarily have to be done, but maybe once every 3 to 5 years. So outside of a broken sewer pipe or water line, you don't really have very many things that actually malfunctions in an RV park. So with an RV park, you're financially compromising payroll. That's probably going to be the biggest thing that you're going to compromise is payroll. And if you paid for on campus, on ground security, you'll be compromising the vendor for security. But outside of that, with an RV park, it's just like if you had a flat surface level parking lot, not even a parking garage, just a parking lot. The fact is that there's nothing to do. It's a flat piece of land. They drive up, they pay, they leave. That's it. And with flock cameras, they take pictures of your license plate on the way in so that if you drive out and you don't pay, they can bill by plate. And ultimately, it's a self-automated system where they only have to monitor and fix the pay station. And that's a situation where it doesn't matter if it's a 28-day cycle or not. What matters is that the overhead is lower. So if somebody doesn't pay, they can delay service on a device or anything to that effect, and they can assume a larger quantity of profits from other things. Like in downtown Tampa, the pay station in person doesn't function. Why? They're forcing you to pay the app. So what do? It's down, and there's signs everywhere that says download this app and pay by the app. They're gonna ticket and tow your car regardless, even though the in-person pay station doesn't work. Are they going to fix the in-person pay station? No. Why? Because they want you to download the app and put your credit card on file and pay through the app so that they don't have to keep servicing this tower, this standing tower in front of the entranceway. It's a scenario where it works for itself. He said, flock cameras today, social security scores tomorrow. I have noticed, and this is one of the things that I haven't talked about on the show. Your social security number is that people use it for identity purposes, but it is your financial obligation in life in America. That's what your social security number is for. So the security of your social interactions with everybody else. It's never going to be said that way, but that's pretty much what it is. Now, police officers use your social security number so that they can put fines against your name uh, through the legal system, right? Courts will apply it. Your social security number is on your criminal record, uh, driving record, all this other stuff. Everything runs with your social security number. But true to life, your social security number is only supposed to be used for financial interactions. So I tell you guys, even if it's a shell company, get you an EIN. Why? Because if you set up a bank account with an EIN, your social security number is not on that account. Your name is on that account, but not your social security number. The business is on that account. Um, if you get credit cards, EIN, your name might be on that credit card, but it's the business's account, right? If it's a personal guarantor credit card, then your social security is going to be added to it because they want to make sure that you're going to pay the debt. But if it's a secured credit card for your business, the business EIN is going to be the only thing on there, right? When you do stuff like that, you take your social security number out of it. Now, when we start talking about stuff that's got nothing to do with finance, like you get pulled over by a cop, they want to know what your social security number is. No. And if you're walking down the street, and this is why I tell you guys to have multiple forms of ID, get you a passport card and a driver's license. If you're walking down the street or doing something that is not a traffic violation, they can ask you for your driver's license, but you don't have to give it to them. You can give them a passport card. The passport card does not have your physical address on it. I told you guys before to put a post office box on your driver's license. I would do it. Put a post office box on your driver's license. But until you do, get a passport card. And if you have to show ID to the police, you give them your passport card. They're going to be, oh, well, what's your address? That's not necessary for this scenario. It's not. Well, we need to contact you. No, you don't. You can put out a warrant. If you need to contact me, you put out a warrant. That's how you find me. That's how you contact me. Put out an APB. Somebody will pick me up, right? But if your vehicle is registered to a post office box, if your driver's license is attached to a post office box, and your passport card doesn't have an address on it, they do not know where your house is, and they do not need your social security card. And that takes you further off the radar for the sake of public record because nothing tangible goes back to a legitimate source. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick before we keep going. He says social security scores like China. Uh, oh, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But see, China is not scoring your social security number. China is scoring your popularity with society. It's almost exactly what you're talking about, but it's a little bit different. If you piss somebody off over there, your reviews, like those Google reviews, those Yelp reviews, your reviews could be tarnished. And then when you try to go and borrow from somebody else, they pull up your file. And I don't know how the fuck these reviews. I think civil complaints and stuff to that effect is how they identify whether or not you've been an asshole in your life. And if you've been an asshole where you've been sued or you've settled out of court in an actual lawsuit that was filed against you, the infractions that you get goes against your identity, where it's harder for you to borrow stuff from other people because nobody likes you. And that's why when you see on those K-pop movies, like somebody, oh yeah, I'll just go talk to the such and such guy. No, 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 I'll take care of it. And they they try to squash the beef between the two of them instead of going through the legal system. Whereas in America, it's like, fuck you, sue me. You gotta catch me first, motherfucker. That's how we are in America because we don't give a fuck. Because we're not held to our own ethics. In other countries, you're held to the ethics of the country. So, yeah. We got flock cameras today, probably social security score. If we had social security scores in America, so many people would be broke as fuck. So many people would grow up. No woman would have money if we had social security scores. Because with the way women treat men, most of them would have a 1-star review. because outside of when they're a server in a restaurant, they're usually not nice. That's just my side note. Stage three, the vendor panic and credit strangulation. And one of the things you got to understand with a business is that when you have problems with borrowing money and paying it back, your uh, Dun and Bradstreet credit score gets compromised and it never recovers. There isn't a credit building thing that I know about to build credit for your business. What would have to happen is that you've got a standalone business and then you might create another standalone business, and that standalone business would have to fund your business where the other business has good credit. There's a reach around, but both businesses would have to be income generating businesses. So if you have a real estate business that has bad credit with Dun and Bradstreet, you would have to have another business that's not a real estate business that has good credit, and then that business would loan money to your real estate business, and then your real estate business pays the first business back with interest, which then the first business pays back the borrower or the lender, so that the first business turns a profit and the lender gets paid back. And ultimately, with that type of cash flow between the three entities, your real estate business could deal with certain fallouts like the one we're talking about today. But when we start talking about not having enough money to pay bills, you can only struggle and juggle this for so long. Your suppliers that were once patients have now had enough. They've been heard all of the excuses, or been told all of the excuses, and the trust is gone. They want their money. They make the calls that you've been dreading for so long, where they are switching you to a cash on delivery COD scenario, or demanding prepayment, which is advance payment for the products, which makes things harder for you when you're trying to run a business. This is a catastrophic turning point. The very credit that was allowing you to operate would be gone in this situation. Your supply chain seizes up. You can't start new work because you can't afford the upfront materials. At the same time, your chronically late payments can get reported to the credit agencies, and your business's credit score can start to drop. Any chance that you had of securing a conventional loan might be disappearing with this decline. Word spreads, the walls are closing in, it starts getting hard. Stage 4 is going to be the internal collapse, because the crisis is no longer going to be just external. It's eating your business from the inside out. In a desperate bid to save cash, you make devastating cuts. First to go often is marketing. You just turn off the engine of future growth. Downsize, get rid of your marketing team. Next, you look at someone else in your team. You might let go of non essential staff, people that you really don't need but you benefit from. But the real problem is going to be your best employees, your top performers. See the writing on the walls. They're the ones with the most options, and they're the first ones to quietly update their resumes and then just leave the company. That's when, like Michael said earlier, people start walking off the job. Now you're left with a demoralized skeleton crew trying to do more with less, crippling your ability to deliver for the customers that still are paying you. This isn't cutting fat anymore. This is cutting into the bone. Stage 5 is going to be the end game, insolvency. And this is going to be the final brutal stage, which is what Michael was talking about. You miss the payroll payments. You ultimately breach the trust. The business is now paralyzed. You can't buy materials. You don't have the staff. Your reputation is shot. You are now, for all intents and purposes, insolvent, unable to pay your debts, and they have all become due. You now have a couple of potential paths. Neither of them are good. In the United States, this often means either, like Michael said, Chapter 11, where administrators tries to save the company, or Chapter 7, which is liquidation, where the company is shut down permanently. Its assets are sold off, and the dream that you poured your life into is officially over. This is going to be the final predictable and tragic destination of the death spiral. But it takes months. It's not something that happens in 2 weeks. From phase one to phase five, you went from realizing you didn't have enough money the first 30 days and trying to subsidize it to 2 months of being able to try to subsidize it, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then you find on like month three where you just don't have enough to go around. You can't subsidize it anymore. You're not able to pay enough of people. You can't get the loans that you need to hold things over, because that's another thing that people do before they let the company go under. I might be subsidizing it out of my check, but while I'm subsidizing it out of my own pocket, I'm getting a bank loan to cover the spread, because the profits and losses still show that I qualify for a loan. But after I get the bank loan and I subsidize it out of my own pocket, now I owe the bank, and uh, 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 I don't have enough money to pay my own standard of living, and the bills are still piling up, but the profits are not coming in as quickly. The payments are not coming in as quickly as the money is going out. It's, like I said, a 3 to 6 month process. If the money never bounces back and the spread never gets covered, eventually we fall into a downward spiral of Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So how do you know if you already caught yourself in the spiral and the spiral's pulling you down? It creeps in disguise as normal business problems. So let's do some self auditing. As I go through these, don't just nod. Ask yourself, is this happening in my business right now? Are you constantly paying bills late? This is a key question, not just for the business, but for your personal life. Because when you start trying to do business with other individuals as an entrepreneur, one of the reasons why you can borrow against a stone with bad credit is because you have a good payment history. If you don't pay people on time, you have a bad payment history. With a bad payment history, they don't count on you to pay your bills. Late is just like not at all, right? This is going to be the cannery in the coal mine. It is not about paying a bill late once in a blue moon. It is when it becomes a habit. If you have to think strategically about which bills to pay and which to delay each month, you are already in the dangerous zone. He said, going out of business sale this Saturday. Well, that happens after 90 days. That happens after, not actually 90 days. Sometimes it'll be like 6 months, a year, 2 years. Sometimes people can rob Peter to pay Paul for 2 or 3 years and struggle where they're making less money than they're spending, but they're still able to float the bills and keep the business open for several years. But after they foreclosed, or after not foreclosed, but after they filed bankruptcy, yeah, then you might see a going out of business sale. But that's when they've completely run out of money. They're not able to keep the ins covering the outs. Number two, your next expenses are, well, the next question is, are your expenses growing faster than your cash receipts? Now, you want to look at your bank statements for the last 6 months, and you can do this for your personal life. Are your total monthly outflows, whatever it is that you have to pay for? For a business, it will be payrolls, rent, supplies. For your personal life, subscriptions, memberships, utility bills, personal desires. Is this trending up faster than the actual cash that is deposited into your bank? For a business, it's cash deposited from customers. For you, it's the cash deposited from your employer. Don't look at sales figures. Look at raw cash hitting your account. So don't for your personal life, guesstimate your entitlement from hours worked. Look at how much money actually goes into your account. Do you rely on credit cards to cover basic operations as mandatory, not as a pass through? Because I know I gave you guys the advice of when you make enough money to cover it, you put the bills on a credit card and then pay the credit card after that before the billing cycle rolls over, which delays the payment without ending the billing cycle on your credit card with anything other than like a $2 balance. Um, when you're putting it on a credit card where you have a $50,000 credit card with $40,000 worth of debt on it and you're making the minimum payment on it because you've got $45,000 worth of stuff that you need and the rest of the money is going towards something else, that's when you're relying on credit cards to cover basic operations. Is your credit cards extra unpaid debt that you cannot work down, not just a pass through? There's a difference between using debt for growth and using it to survive. Using a line of credit to make payroll or pay rent is going to be a massive red flag. It means that your core business isn't generating enough cash to support itself. You're borrowing to fund losses, and that's a game that you can never win over the long term. Um, no, this wouldn't be net worth, Michael. This wouldn't be net worth. So net worth is going to be calculating if today we sold all of your assets, would you be able to pay off all of your debts? That's the net worth. The amount of money being spent faster than the amount of money being earned is what we're discussing. And that would more to the magnitude be debt to income, not so much debt to credit. And it's not actually a net worth scenario because a business's net worth could be $50 million business. And that same business could be $49 million in debt. The debt to income could be 99%, but the net worth could be $50 million. So we're not looking at on paper the value of the company. We're looking at in actual practice, is there more money coming in to pay the bills? Then there are bills that need to be paid. And if you are included in payroll, or if you have share investments that has to get paid and you're one of the shareholders, are your shareholders getting paid? All right. And if they're not, they're going to start pulling out, which means they're going to want their money back. And that's more money that you got to give away. Okay. 4, are your inventory and receivables ballooning? And this is going to be where cash goes to die because you look at your balance sheets. Is your account receivables, the money customers owe you, climbing? This means that they're taking longer to pay you. Is your inventory value climbing? This means that you have cash tied up in products that are sitting on the shelf in your warehouses. Both are signs that your cash conversion cycle is getting dangerously long. Number 5, do you have a forward-looking cash flow forecast? Operating without a detailed cash flow forecast is like flying a plane through a storm with no instruments. If the question, what will your bank balance be in 6 weeks, makes you anxious because you have no fucking idea, you are flying blind to impending shortfalls. You were in that helicopter with Kobe right before the mountain. It's not going to end well. Number 6, is your customers' behavior changing? You want to pay close attention to this. Are clients who used to pay in 15 days now stretching it to 30 days? Or new customers asking for longer payment terms? This can be signs of economic pressure on your customers, which will quickly become pressure on you. If one or more of these signs are going to be there in your day-to-day operations, you need to understand that you're not just having a bad month. The good news is that you can get off the path, but it requires a radical shift in focus starting right now. Every turnaround story has a single moment where the trajectory shifts. That turning point isn't finding a magical pot of money or hitting the lottery or winning a massive settlement somewhere. It is a fundamental mindset shift that changes every decision that you make. The shift is this: you must stop managing your business by a profits and losses statement and start obsessing over your cash flow statements instead. Your P&Ls is an option, and it's going to be a very biased opinion. It's an accounting of past events. It's going to tell you a story, but your cash flow is a fact. It's the brutal, honest truth of what is happening in your bank account right now. So to survive, you have to become a cash flow realist. The optimism that makes you a great entrepreneur can be your worst enemy here because you can't hope a client pays on time. You must plan for the scenario where the client pays late. Same thing with real estate. When you're collecting rent on a regular basis, you might be collecting rent on a regular basis where 100% of your clients are paying on time. But what happens when one moves out? No longer do you have 100% clientele. Now you might have 95% clientele. What if you find that 10% of them are active duty? Now you're 11% are missing, right? They got called away, right? Now you're down to 79%. What if, with the struggling of economy, 10% more start paying late? Now you're losing 21% of your clientele. Notice how economic shifts could completely downturn your overall profit margin. It's not you doing bad business, it is the payment source no longer being as dependable as it used to be. This mindset shift leads to one non negotiable expectation and action. This is going to be what stops the bleeding. You must today build a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. And this isn't an optional observation here. You're going to have to do this. This is one of the most critical survival tools that you can create. And why do you think 13 weeks? Michael pointed out that there's 13 months in a year. This is going to be because it covers a full business quarter. Short enough to be accurate, but long enough to see danger coming ahead. It's a simple spreadsheet listing week by week, every dollar that you expect to come in, every dollar that you expect to go out. This is a simple document that does something miraculous. It replaces panic with a plan. It turns the terrifying anxiety of will we have enough money to a concrete question of in week 7, we are projecting a $15,400 shortfall. What specific actions can we take now to close that gap? And if we're talking about week 7 and we're in week 1, that gives us 6 weeks to figure it out. Suddenly you're not a victim, you're a strategist. The forecast is your map and it shows you the cliffs before you get to them. And it gives you the one thing a crisis tries to steal from you, which is time. Time to negotiate, time to chase a payment, time to arrange a line of credit before you desperately need it. The 13-week cash flow forecast is how you turn the lights on and keep them on. And one of the funniest things about it, he said, what calendars are you guys using? Okay, Stephen, there is 52 weeks in a year, right? 12 months in a year, right? But there's 365 days in a year, right? If there's 28 days in a month, because there's 4 weeks in every month, isn't there, in fact, genuinely 13 months? What happens is that in order to have a 12-month calendar, they divide 1 month into several months, meaning that every month is 4 weeks and a few days long. So out of 12 months, you have a 13th month divided between 12 extra months. Then it is short by 1 extra hour. And guess what that hour is? Freaking daylight savings time. But technically, if every day was evenly divided, we would likely have 24 hours and 15-minute days every day or something to that effect, where we would ultimately have a 13-month year every year. And we would have 28 days in every month, 28 days and a few minutes in every month. And it would be 13-month years. Nobody wants to do that because of superstition. 13 is an unlucky number. So they switch it to 12. But I did cover this on the show. I think October of last year, I was talking about this. But even if you tried this 13-week calendar for yourself in your personal life, remember I told you guys, pay your bills in advance. 13 weeks is 3 months and a week. If you paid all of your utility bills 13 weeks in advance, if you have a rent that you have to pay and you paid your rent 13 weeks in advance, you can pay your car insurance 13 weeks in advance because your car insurance operates on a 6-month basis. You will find that you've got 3 months to fix whatever just happened if you recognize that you're about to experience a financial shortfall. This is before we start talking about tapping into a savings account that has $5 or $7 or $10,000 worth of cash in it. Because if you have $5 or $7 or $10,000 worth of services already advance paid for, if you have a shortfall, you can pull the cash out and pay for the shortfall, and then just get back to replenishing that money and keeping your bills paid on time, which I think is the Vantage 2 or Vantage 4 that Donald Trump was doing when he reassessed credit assessment plans. You look at these credit assessment plans that are like, hey, on time utility payments improves credit scores. Some of them. But that only makes sense if it's paying on a regular basis, on time. If it's not paying on a regular basis on time, then it looks bad on your credit score. Now, if any of this information is resonating with you and you're feeling that knot in your stomach because you're recognizing some of these signs, and I want to make sure that you guys do me a favor and you hit those like buttons and match those reaction buttons, because it is going to be one of the most effective signals to yourself that you're ready to face this head on. And it tells the algorithm that more and more business owners need to see this conversation. So if you had a mindset shift after we started discussing this, you're building your forecast. What do you do now? In a crisis, speed and decisive action matters more than perfection. This is your emergency play. So you want to think of it as a financial triage. And I talked to you about doing a financial triage for your personal life. But the first week you want to achieve absolute clarity and you want to stop the bleeding. So your goal is that you want to, if you didn't already do this, know exactly where you stand and stop making the problem worse. So first step, after building your 13-week cash flow forecast, day one, hour one, no excuses, do this. Open the spreadsheet, list weeks 1 through 13, start with your opening cash balance, whatever's available, then list all of the anticipating cash inflows and be brutally realistic. The ones that pay on time, the ones that receivably pay late, document it all. If a client always pays 15 days late, forecast it exactly that way. If they pay early, that's beneficial for you. But if they're going to pay 15, 20 days late, you want to project that as I'm getting it 20 days late. Then list every single cash outflow: payroll, rent, loan payments, supplier bills, taxes, everything. Step two, calculate your cash runways. The forecast shows that you have a certain number of weeks until your projected cash balance turns into a negative. The money coming in versus the money coming out. This number dictates the urgency of everything else. Step three, you want to freeze all non-essential spending immediately. This is a spending lockdown. You want to go through every expense and classify as a must-have, a nice-to-have, and all must-haves are critical to serving existing customers and keeping the lights on. Everything else that is a nice to have. It's nice to have a coffee machine that pays for that makes its own coffee, but I don't need that, right? Stuff that you don't need, that stuff is frozen. Travel, new equipment when the old equipment works just fine, office perks, all on pause. Every dollar counts. Week two, proactive communication and ruthless prioritization. Your goal here, get ahead of the problem and control the narrative. Step four, you want to commute with your creditors, communicate with them, talk to them, let them know what's going on. This is going to be a terrifying feeling, but it is going to be very powerful. With your forecast in hand, you call your key suppliers and your landlord before you're late. Don't hide it. Be honest. Say something like, based on our forecast, we're projecting a temporary shortfall. You know, we have a clear plan to manage the business through it, and we want to work with you on a temporary payment plan. You know, people are far more willing to work with someone who has a plan to make sure that they still get money than for someone who doesn't answer the phone because the money didn't come through. Step five, you want to triage your payments. Now that you finally have a formal prioritized goal on who gets paid, your bucket one is going to be top priorities, core operations. Payroll is always a number one if you want to keep your employees happy, but it's also going to include rent and utilities and critical software to keep the business running. This stuff must be paid. Bucket two is secondary priorities, key relationships that you need to keep the business successful, critical suppliers, lenders that you use regularly. You need to pay them, but your proactive communication in step four might have bought you some time or modified the schedule. Bucket three is going to be your last priority. This is discretionary spending and postponables. Any expense that isn't essential for immediate operations gets deferred. In week three and week four, cash ejections and stabilizations are going to be the next best thing for you to get out of your 13 weeks. Your goal here, accelerate cash in and stabilize the business. Then your step six, becoming a professional collector. You also can have somebody that is in your receivables department be part of the collection department to collect money that hasn't been paid, but your accounts receivable will be the cheapest source of the cash flow instead of you personally going and getting it. But you want to get on the phone. You want to follow up on every outstanding invoice. Be polite but firm. For new invoices, consider offering a small discount like 2% for payments within 10 days. Yes, this is the pay cut, but you are trying to get more money in now so that the business doesn't go under later. It's better for you to take a 2% pay cut on money coming in than to pay a 15% payout on money borrowed to wait on the money coming in. Step seven, you want to find a quick cash win. Do you have excess inventory? You can run a flash sale. Yes, this cuts on expended profits. But if you can sell your product in bulk to a larger entity, you have gotten rid of a larger majority of your inventory and brought in a larger quantity of profits in a shorter period of time. If you're selling $30 an item and you're able to reduce that by 40%, where you're probably selling at closer to $12 an item if they buy 10,000 items, you just brought in a shit ton of money in a short period of time, which could potentially benefit you because a lot of that can go towards any outstanding loans that you have from lenders. Can you offer a prepaid bundle of services at a discount? Buy it, pay me before you get it for a discount, which means that I'm providing you the service after I got your money. Can you start requiring deposits on all new projects? Give me a percentage of the project up front, which will cover my expenses so that the only thing I have left to deal with is profit. Step eight, you want to liquidate unused assets. The extra office furniture, old computers, any equipment, the vehicles that you barely use, sell all that shit. A few $1,000s can buy you another week of runway. Step nine, when all else fails, you want to get you some expert help. Now that you stabilize the immediate crisis, consider bringing in an expert like a fractional CFO, Chief Financial Officer. They've seen this hundreds of times. Their fees will likely pay for itself in saving costs and providing you a peace of mind. But at some point, the thought of getting a loan is going to feel like a perfect solution. But this is going to be a dangerous moment because financing is leverage. If you have not fixed the underlying operational problem where you're spending more money than you're making, borrowing money will only amplify your pain because now you owe yet another person. You still are making less money than the quantity of money that you owe. And while, yes, you have caught up on all the people that you owe money to, now you have an extra person with interest that you have to pay, and you still don't make as much money as you owe. So it's going to be like using gasoline to put out a fire. A loan given to a business with a negative cash flow and no plan will just be burned through, leaving you in the same crisis, but with an extended quantity of debt. However, if you have a plan, you're reducing the quantity of money going out, increasing the quantity of money coming in. Financing can be a powerful bridge. And here's some options if you view this from a smart perspective: invoice financing or factoring. This is when you sell your outstanding invoices to a company at a discount for immediate cash. The best time to use this is when you're smoothing out cash flow, when you have reliable but slow paying large customers. This can also work with debt collection. If you've been trying to get money from a customer for the last 3 months, they haven't been paying, you can sell the invoice to another agency so that you can get money from that agency. And now that agency will try to collect the money from you. That's where debt collectors come from. The primary business sells the debt, the unpaid balance, to a third party, where the third party is now going to try to collect from you, and the original business can move on without your account. Usually, they close your account down with them and sell the unpaid bill to somebody else, and now you're their problem. There is a risk here, though, because with every opportunity, there's also a conflict of interest. The fees can be high in some situations, and it will be eating into your profit margins. So it is a short term fix, not a long term solution, but it can offset unpaid expenses from clients that you probably don't want anymore. Business lines of credit, a revolving line of credit from a bank that you can draw on as needed is always a good idea. Best used cases would be managing seasonalities or predictable short term dips. The key is to arrange it before you're in a crisis. So when your business is still looking healthy, you are setting up a large cash flow operation so that when your business is struggling, you've already been pre approved and you start utilizing the money to benefit the downtimes in your company and then paying everything back. The risk here is going to be interest costs that can add up when you start borrowing against the money. And there is going to be some temptation to use it as a permanent crush if you're dealing with the interest costs, and short term loans and overdrafts could actually be a big issue when you're trying to make yourself bounce back off of certain problems with your business. So it's something that not a lot of people think about because you can actually find yourself getting a fantastic setup where it's it wasn't going the way you wanted it to go, but now you're bringing it back. And you can find yourself in a situation where borrow a little bit of money against a stone, and you can find yourself recovering dramatically. And then after you recover, you can find yourself in a position where not only are you successful, but you are thriving. In that situation, you find yourself in a more satisfactory position because you put a little bit of money down when needed to cover a situation that otherwise, what? You have a situation as needed that covers otherwise a situation that you would have ended up falling through on, and that's one of the things that um, finding alternative payment sources would do to help you be more successful. And not a lot of people think about this because when you're living paycheck to paycheck, when you're borrowing against a stone, a lot of people find themselves questioning, should I take out a loan? Is this a good idea? But the question is not, should I take out a loan? The question is, if I took out a loan, could I pay the loan back? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. If you can pay the loan back, then you're in a position where uh, you are in a good spot to say, let's go ahead and take this loan out. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and take this leap of faith and put ourselves in a position where we are making ourselves more successful. That's what we want to do. But it requires us to pay attention heavily to what we're trying to accomplish versus what we're capable of. Now, if we look at loans and overdrafts, they're going to be designed for very immediate short term needs. In best case scenarios, covering an unexpected one time expense or bridging a tiny gap of a few days or in some situations a couple of weeks. The risk is still feasible, but you do have to deal with a few interest rates that are sometimes going to be often high when you're dealing with short-term loans. Because think about those payday loans, think about those cash advances, and look at the interest rates that they put on those. Think of the Indian chief loan guy that puts up money on your behalf, and the peer-to-peer lender platforms that they put up money and then you got to give it back to them, and think about all of these things and then recognize that the expectation of getting that money back is it's going to have high cost to you. This is stuff that you do for emergencies, not as regular circulation, and it should be paid back as quick as possible because when you're dealing with daily compound interest, you find yourself losing money letting that loan linger. Now, equity and investor funding is going to be another thing that you can do, but you got to do this cautiously. Selling a percentage of your company to investors for cash is a good way to make your business more successful. This is best used for recapitalizing the business for a major pivot or after a crisis that has been stabilized. The risk that you're going to have here is that this is going to be one of the most expensive forms of capital because you are giving up ownership and control permanently. And you got to be careful because you've got some people who will buy shares of your company from 30 different businesses so that they can have, because they have priority control over each one of their businesses that bought into your company, and each one of those businesses may not have a authority over your company because they might have like 5% or 10%. But if 10 companies buy into your business at 5%, 50% ownership has just walked out the door. If any one of those shareholders picked up one extra percent, you lost priority control over your business because 51% of your business is owned by somebody else. When you're selling shares of your company, especially when you start talking about ownership shares and voters' right shares, you want to negotiate 49 or 45% of your business away. And why do I say that? Because regardless of if everybody's vote works together, you're looking at having the majority vote based on shares. If you've got 55% of shares, you have the majority vote because you vote 55 times when everybody else's combination is 45. And if you say no, no is no, right? So you want to make sure that you're never putting on the line so many shares of your company to the magnitude that they are buying out your company. And a lot of times, and one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because it's called a hostile takeover. It's like 100% of your company is up for sale. You might have like 20 or 30% of shares. Then like 7 companies come in and buy 10%. And now one person has a majority share of each one of those companies, which means that person has 70% majority share over your company. And since there's a majority share in the other guy's vote, that guy can vote you out and then give you a severance package, buying you out of the remaining 30%, kicking you out of your own company, and then making billions of dollars off of your company after you put all the effort into creating your company. It's called a hostile takeover. So you never want to have more than 40 or 45% of your shares up for sale. All of like you must have 50 to 51 or 55% of shares directly with the founder. So like if you have one guy that says like you see Shark Tank and other all of those other things, well, I'll give you $1 million for 25%. Yeah. Well, if that guy's got 25%, you've got 75% left. If somebody else wants 25%, you're walking on thin ice because those two guys together is 50% of the vote. So you want to make sure that if only 45% is available and somebody's got 25%, the only thing that's left is 20%, which means that those two people together now only have 45% vote. So this message is cautious. I want you guys to pay attention. Before you take any financing from angel investors and other such individuals, you want to look at your 13-week forecast and ask yourself, will this cash flow allow me to execute a plan that leads to a sustainable positive cash flow in the future? If the answer is no, you're just delaying the inevitable. So don't take new money in from extra sources if the solution to your problem will not be resolved, where more money will be coming in and less money will be going out. Surviving a cash flow process is like surviving a heart attack. The goal now is to change your lifestyle so that it never happens again. You need to build a financially resilient business and a fortress. The crisis happened because you were flying blind. The fortress is built on the data. If you maintain your rolling cash flow plan forever, the 13-week forecast isn't a crisis tool, it's your new permanent co pilot. Update it weekly. You can do this with your personal life. If all of your bills are paid for the next 13 weeks, you know how much money you're getting paid, presumably over the next few weeks, assuming that you don't lose your job. Any new expense that comes in within the next 13 weeks, if you have an annual subscription that's going to come due, a website platform or something to that effect, registration updates, your upcoming birthday, anything that's not a normal reoccurrence, that unexpected reoccurrence that pops in, you can use this in your personal life to say, hey, now I can take next week's paycheck to renew my registration, or this might be the year I have to update my driver's license. I'm going to take next week's money and use it to get my driver's license fixed. All of these things that are unexpected reoccurring situations that you can recover from because you've got a 13-week plan. If you're living from paycheck to paycheck and your registration is due, but all your bills are got to get paid first, you can't pay your registration. Now your vehicle is unregistered. You can find yourself missing payments on very important stuff like your car insurance, and now your insurance has lapsed. You'll find yourself struggling in situations uh, where you're not making the money that you would prefer to make, and then you're not able to pay the things that you need to pay. And then if your insurance lapses, then your license gets suspended. Now you got a fine, you got a suspended license, you got to reinstate your license, reinstate your insurance, you got to hold on your registration. There's a lot of stuff that goes wrong by simply not having enough time to do the things that you need to do. You want to embrace scenario planning, hypotheticals. Once you get yourself stable, create three versions of your forecast: the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and the expected case scenario. Everyone throws out that phrase of expect the worst, hope for the best, and take what happens in between. But you're not building a plan for all three of them. Worst case scenario, everything goes to shit. What do I do as collateral damage uh, 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 mitigations to reduce the fallout? If everything goes according to plan, what do I do to keep things stable? If things are better than I ever thought possible, what do I do with the surplus? Because irresponsible spending, when things are better than you ever thought possible, can lead to this exact same situation. Overspending, lifestyle creep, overspending, business inflation. When you expand on a business too fast, and you're spending more money than you're making with the foreshadowed assumption that you're going to be making 10 times more in a certain number of months, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will. So, this is going to let you see the potential impacts of your major events on your cash before it happens. Review all three financial statements monthly. We're talking about 13-week projection of if everything continues to go to shit, 13-week projection of if everything stays good, and 13-week projection of if everything continues to climb. Review them monthly. Your income statement, including your profits and losses, your balance sheet, you want to include that, and then your cash flow statements that tell complete stories where all the information is brought together. Then you want to learn to read them together, meaning that you're reviewing all three documents at the same time, the same way you get your three credit reports. Then you'll become fluent in the true language of your business's finances. Visibility is useless without a buffer. A cash reserve is your most important defense. In most situations, in business as well as in personal life, the goal is to operate with 3 to 6 months of operating expenses covered from somewhere. This is a common rule of thumb. Whether you have advance paid for services for 3 to 6 months, or if you have the cash set aside to cover 3 to 6 months worth of services, it's a great goal to aim for. Once stable, your primary financial targets should be building cash reserves that can cover more than 3 to 6 months of your essential operating expenses. This is your war chest, and you can build it by starting small. Set up an automatic transfer to move 1 or 2% every deposit from every client into a separate savings account. As cash flow improves, increase that percentage. This money is going to be your emergency oxygen supply. Finally, you must hardwire financial discipline into your daily operations and the daily operations of anybody else that's handling your money. You want to optimize your cash conversion cycles, continuously looking for ways to shorten the time that it takes to convert spending into cash. Invoice faster, offer discounts for early payments. On the other side, try to negotiate slightly longer payment terms with your own vendors, where the money is coming in from your clients faster, but the vendors are willing to wait longer to get paid from you. Master your pricing and your margins, because many cash flow problems start with underpricing. Underpricing is when you're not charging enough for your product. Overpricing is when you're charging too much for the product and the customers can't afford to pay it. So if your margins are going to be too thin, you have no room for error. A profitable business is much easier to keep cash flow positive. So if the customers are willing to pay that particular price, 5 or 10 or 20 cents cheaper than the competitor, run that. Because even if you don't need that much money, if you're operating at 200% of the overhead, you're making twice as much money as you're spending. Instead of operating 10% more than the overhead, where you barely have enough money to stay afloat. Know your business's seasonality, because not every business is profitable 100% of the time. If your business has predictable busy and slow seasons, you want to plan for that. Accumulate a larger quantity of cash flow during the feasting months when there's a lot more money coming in, so that you can survive the famine months when there's not enough money coming in. Don't let a predictable cycle create an avoidable crisis. If you know, like for example, take teachers on salaries. If they're getting paid for the fall term and then they're getting paid for the spring term, but they're unemployed for the summer term, that is 3 months of no income. If you know that you're not going to get paid for 3 months, you are going to want to have 4 or 5 months worth of money set aside to cover the 3 months of not getting an income and the first 2 months that you go back to work when your income starts coming back. Because it doesn't matter if you go on vacation or whatever the fuck you do during the 3 months that you have off. What matters is that while you're not going to work for those 3 months, your money still needs to be coming in, or your bills need to already be paid. So building this fortress is going to take a lot of time. It's not something that can be done overnight, but it is something that you can start preparing for while things are stable. The peace of mind that this provides is priceless. It's a difference between running a business from a place of fear and leading it from a position of strength. Now, we've covered a lot. We've looked into the abyss of the death spiral, and we've laid out a path to climb back out. I want you guys to remember this: running out of cash is a liquidity failure, not necessarily a business failure. It's not a moral judgment on you, it is a mechanical problem, which is a sign that the system that the business is running on for managing the money in and out of your business is fundamentally broken. Broken. It's malfunction. And because it's a mechanical problem, not a personal failure, it has a mechanical solution. It's a combination of three things: radical visibility from your cash flow forecast, proactive communication with your stakeholders, and unshakable discipline to build a resilient financial system for the future. The journey out of a cash crisis is incredibly stressful, but on the other side, it is a level of control that you never had before. And you will emerge stronger, smarter, and more of a leader, and much more resilient of a business. Now, you've seen the map. The next step up is for you to make changes in your decision making. And to help you guys take those critical steps, I've already put it into the membership, a cash flow crisis checklist, which will walk you guys through the essential actions for the first 72 hours and the step-by-step guide to help you triage your situation and gather the numbers for your forecast. Don't tell yourself that it's just a bad month. Make sure that you check the membership and download the checklist right now and take control of your finances before you completely lose control of your outcome. And while I did give you guys this information for business, make note that running a business and running your personal life are fundamentally similar practices. So you can use this checklist to triage your financial status. The amount of money coming in versus the amount of money going out. The difference is from a W-2 worker or a self-employed worker is that a W-2 worker has one funding source, unless you have more than one job. Self-employed person has multiple funding sources, each job that you're contracted to. The goal is still the same. How often does money come in? Approximately when does it come in? How much has to get paid? And approximately when should it get paid? And set that up for 13 weeks. If in the 13 weeks you have a reoccurring payment that happens once every 6 months, this is the season that that reoccurring payment comes in, which is an extra expense that's normally not there. If you have a seasonal thing or an annual thing, that this is the quarter where that annual thing comes up, you can factor that in. We're a couple days away from the 1st of August. A 13-week projection would be August, September, October, and possibly the second week of November. If you got a birthday in the next 90 days, your registration is due, your driver's license is due. You're depending on when you do your car insurance, your renewal of your car insurance might be due. These are things that are not always an every month or every day thing. These are things that happen once in a while, and a lot of us forget about it until it becomes a thing. And then we have to scramble to get extra money to take care of that because that's not part of our day-to-day operations. If you use this 13-week platform to work on certain stuff like that, you would actually find yourself in a situation where you could effectively prepare for upcoming stuff. And in a 13-week triage, if you were trying to plan for a trip, the lack of income during that trip, that's going to be a downtime. You were able to project how are bills going to get paid during the downtime. Now, if you find a way to pull up some PTO, vacation days, or something like that, and you cover the spread, that does not change the fact that you have already pre-scheduled capital that you already had access to cover the downtime. So when the PTO comes in, that's extra money. Remember we said worst case scenario, no extra money comes in. Best case scenario, extra money comes in. Normal expectations is that what is supposed to be here always comes in whenever it's supposed to come in. If you change the way you do what you do, instead of you chasing and reacting to life and income and finances, you are planning and preparing for upcoming life and expectations and finances. Your preventative maintenance allows for you to no longer have the roller coaster of unpredictability. You know what you're going to be doing. You know when you're going to be doing it. That's a huge advantage, right? And it takes not all, but most of the stress out of your personal life, and it'll definitely take a hell of a lot of stress out of your business life. All right. Now, we covered a lot of stuff today and actually tiptoed through 2 hours of show. So I really appreciate that. We're going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, we're going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. I want to give a special shout out to Michael, Steven, FX Trader, OG Kicks, Anelia, Hernandez. That's a weird name. And Unc Andy. I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. Oh, and Jojo. Remember that we are still going to be going live every night of the week, around about the same time every night of the week. But as we get closer to daylight savings time, I'm going to remind you guys that for the shift of daylight savings time, because time goes back an hour, I'm probably going to be starting 5 minutes after the hour. And I think daylight savings time happens November 2nd. So keep an eye out for that, because the closer we get to that, the more often I'm going to remind you about that. But as it stands right now, 30 minutes after the hour, 40 minutes after the hour, somewhere in that area, that's when we go live right now. And we're going to be doing that every night of the week. So make sure that if you don't see the notifications for whatever reason, check in 30 minutes in, 40 minutes in to like 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. We'll be here. We should be here. And if like I said, projections and forecasts. If something happens where I know that I'm not going to be here on a specific day at a specific time, I'm probably going to tell you ahead of time. Where starting late will be like 4 hours late kind of thing, you'll know ahead of time. So as I stand right now, we have same bat time, same bat channel. You guys got to fly through and come and see whatever we got going on. Friday and Saturday are going to be a lot more, probably closer to financial discussions that will aid you guys in being a lot more successful. So I want you guys to make sure that you come back for those, because this is going to be how you guys make money for you. And with that being said, fellas, I give you this information to make you guys better, not only in your financial life, but also in your decision making for your personal life. Ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women by finding the things in your life that you don't like, that you have control over, and proactively improve those things, and then navigate around the things that are outside of your control, which then gives you the capabilities of paying attention to your 20 and 30-year plan, reverse engineering. That's what you got to do today. Start proactively taking on that 20 and 30-year plan, keeping your eyes and ears open for the potential suitor with the right personality and characteristics, the right drive, ambition, dedication, admiration, and integrity and motivation, specifically motivation, to achieve his own goals, and to see what kind of goals he's got. If his goals and your goals mesh together, then you guys can conquer your goals together, right? And long-term satisfaction goals are more effective in long-term relationships and short-term gratification. And I tell you guys on a regular basis that if you're both headed in the right direction, that two parties can make it to $1 million faster than one, but it requires you both to have the same financial values or similar financial values. Now, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. vision.